Good day sanibonani njani. My name is Umpumelelo Kamshengo Shabalala. Cha kodwa ngalamavuso umavuso amhlophe officer nakuba kuyena. I'm also known as Umfana Kamshengo on TikTok and also on YouTube. I'm also known as Umfana Kamshengo. So on today's video, I just want to speak about the differences when it comes to different schools. You can work as a teacher here in China. And number one, you have AMA training centers. So AMA training centers have went down in terms of employment because of the Chinese government policies that have changed a lot in the past 2-3 years. So that has resulted in my training center need to shut down. So there's only a few training centers that are left. I think the one that I'm sure it's still running in some of the cities is EF, which is Education First. So they managed to survive this whole pandemic of closing down my training centers. So that's the only training center I can vouch for. It's okay, they're still working, even though when it comes to salaries and benefits right now, I think they're still below when it comes to giving out good contracts, when it comes to money and so on. But they are a great experience if you want to come into China for the first time. You can use your own training center and maybe earn about 13,000 or 14,000, which they give to most first time contractors. And then from there, you can work on a second contract to Ubuti, you find a better job and so on. And also another thing when it comes to training centers, I believe they give you the best foundation into understanding the education system here in China, the expectations, and because the e-training center is a private agency and it's profit driven, so it kind of pushes you, Ubuti, always do your best on whatever level you are teaching. And in a training center, you would get ingane who are in pre-K, ingane who are in K3, K2, ingane who are in grade 1, grade 3, grade 6 in primary. So when you work in a training center, you are exposed to different kinds of students and their age, and you are able to adapt to it. Okay, if I'm teaching kids in kindergarten, this is how they're going to react. If I'm teaching kids in primary, this is how they are. And if I'm teaching kids in high school, this is how they are. So the best thing about training centers is they expose you to the different levels when it comes to the education and the children here in China. So first time teachers, I would say it's best from graduation. You didn't do EPGCE or EPED and you don't have much experience when it comes to teaching. I would say in a way training centers are kind of good for you when it comes to maybe giving you that foundation of understanding the whole education curriculum or the expectations in the education sector for students here in China. So training centers would be good for that. But policy-wise and the risk with the training centers, I also do not recommend people to go to training centers because they're just not secure at the moment. You can come in, lose your job, they overgive you classes, the pressure is kind of too much right now if you want to work in a training center. Okay, and number two, kindergarten. Kindergarten, the crash buffet too. Kindergarten, you are dealing with babies. Here in China, the policy says ingane can start at kindergarten at even to 2.5 years up until 3 or 4 years. Ingenza to pre-K lapho ezinye zingene ku-K1, but the whole age is like 2.5 to 6 years. So those kids who are in that age gap are gonna be in kindergarten. For kindergarten, you're gonna have pre-K. That's how they set it: pre-K, K1, K2, and K3. K3 is like grade R. Next day you're gonna go to grade 1. So these are the difference. And if you are coming from maybe teaching in high school, maybe coming from teaching older children, it's going to take a lot in your first year or your first semester when it comes to teaching babies, being able to handle babies, especially for our Wesley. So when it comes to male teachers, most of men aren't really familiar around kids. They don't have that extra tender care when it comes to children. So they tend to also struggle when they have to deal with kindergarten students. But once you get used to it, it becomes a walk in a park. Kindergarten, I believe, is one of the most chilled jobs. Even if you are a homeroom teacher is when you basically have a classroom. You teach the classroom maybe once or twice a day, and you stay with the kids throughout the day. So that means you help them maybe eating during lunch. You help them go to sleep. You help them with with everything. during the day until basically they go to, and then you go and send them to their parents and they go home. So a homeroom teacher, you stay specifically with those children the whole day. You basically like a father teacher or a mother teacher. But then yeah, so that's what kindergarten is. And then you have all grade one, the primary school, which is much more chilled. You can teach 4 or 5 different classes. You can teach for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, depending on the school that you are working in and how much classes they're going to give you. Most of the contract that say you can't teach more than 20 hours a week, and then there's also office hours and so on. But then when it comes to primary and high school, the whole structure is similar. The high school about 50 minutes per lesson. You can teach even the whole FET phase, from grade 9 up until grade 12, to those level of students. But it's much more chilled when it comes to older students because most of them they can communicate in English. Most of them you are able to interact. Most of them they actually know what I'm here to study. So the moment you stand in front of the class and you start teaching, they give you that attention. It was okay, the teacher is speaking, I'm here to learn and so on. So in China, it's much different in terms of those things. Some children they do look to absorb as much as they can ukuze food from wena. Even in primary and even in kindergarten students, their attention span, it's like they drill from a young age ukuthi bekwazi to grasp as much attention in the classroom. So by the time they're in grade one, they're used to sitting in the class the whole day. They're used to listening. They're used to knowing what okay, it's teaching, yeah, yes, teaching time, and also it's playtime. So they do know those things. So that's the difference when it comes to these 4 type of levels when it comes to the education and teaching here in China. So you have to know your character. For instance, Mina, I was teaching in university before I came here in China. So I tutored like for 3 years in university. I was tutoring tourism, tutoring and the humanities, working in the writing place, doing all kinds of papers for humanities, about English, and also for community development. So I was used to older students. And then I had to come here in China. I was given in Ganena 4 to teach in Ganena 4. So you just you blank at the moment. But thank God for that ukuthi ngakwazi ukusebenza in the training center as my entrance. So I was able to be trained ukuthi okay, ingane kanje, you look, this is how you do it. And by 3 2 months, I was gelled on working with any kinds of children. So yeah, if uzazi ukuthi you don't like children, always look ukuthi okay, I want to work in a primary going up. If uzazi ukuthi okay, I don't want all the children, I'm a teacher in South Africa, I work in primary, so I'll prefer primary students. Then you set your contract to okay, I want to work in these different schools, these different primaries. Another thing when it comes to salaries that I've noticed here in China, kindergarten turns to pay the most when it comes to teaching posts, and you'd find that even in a whole school, because here in China you'd find that a whole school would be combined from grade one, from kindergarten. They would have like their own section within the whole area, and the primary school they also have their own section, and the high school have all their own sections. But this is all one school, and they just cut it into 3 places, and they divide the school like that. But then you'd find that in kindergarten there's actually more English teachers than in primary and in high school. Even in primary, there tends to be more English teachers than in high school. In high school, you usually find like 3 4 5 teachers, depending what's high school in Gaganang. But then, yeah, this is how they divide them. When it comes to kindergarten, they do pay the most. To be honest, I've seen positions in kindergarten that they tend to have more money than in primary or in high school. So it depends how you negotiate it now and the experience you have and so on. So do remember to like, subscribe, and ask anything. If you want to come and teach here in China, do ask us and anything on Umfanagam Shengu on TikTok, even on Facebook. Pumalelom Shengu, I will respond to your inboxes as much as I can. So do remember to like, subscribe, comment. Dank.